All right, Super Bowl is upon us, Colin. Eagles hoping to kind of turn the tables after that Super Bowl 57 loss. Jalen Hurts was asked about how that defeat impacted him. Here's what he had to say.
I learned so much. You know, it's the same as any other game. And, you know, I think the moments are the moments, but ultimately, you know, every game has its lessons, good, bad, or indifferent. And so just being able to become wiser, grow and mature and take all these lessons in for the next season and the next games.
So Hurts was spectacular in the last Super Bowl. 304 yards passing, 70 on the ground, 4 touchdowns. He did have a fumble in the pocket that Bolton scooped up and scored on.
Yeah.
That kind of got the Chiefs reinvigorated. What's your vibe on Hurts, who's had an up and down season? Remember, they kind of reined him in early?
There are splits that are really interesting. When he has time to throw, he is spectacular. When he's pressured, he is below average, like near the bottom of the league. So it's pretty clear what the game plan is for Kansas City. Spags in the second, third, and fourth quarters, Kansas City's a top 5 pressurizing team. I think you're going to see a lot of blitzes, a lot of pressure. I think what Kansas City doesn't want to happen is Philadelphia's dominant O-line and run game puts Patrick Mahomes on the sideline as a spectator for 3.5 hours. So I think Spags is going to take big risks and say, you know what, Jalen, beat us over the top. We're going to put Trent McDuffie on A.J. Brown. We feel good about it. Beat us in big plays. What we're not going to let you do is have 9-minute drives and we get out of rhythm offensively and we can't stop you defensively.
Interesting. You know, I actually have a Hurts ticket to win MVP of the Super Bowl simply because of that strategy. I think he's going to be blitzed, and I think Hurts is going to deliver. I believe in him. I know he's had his ups and downs. I don't think this Chiefs defense is as good as everybody's making it out to be, Colin. They cannot stop the run.
Well, they're not as good as last year.
Yeah.
And again, once you pay a quarterback what Mahomes makes, you have to make choices. Remember, they got rid of Snead.
Yep.
But I will say this: Spags' defense, like Mahomes in big games, they tend to ratchet it up a little bit. He's a little more exotic with his blitzes. They take more chances. I mean, I don't know what Philadelphia's game plan is, but I feel like Kansas City has a way to win, and that is to make Jalen Hurts uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You can't blitz Mahomes, so that doesn't work with him. What you want to do, and Jalen Carter is sick, and he's not going to be at 100% potentially.
Hopefully he doesn't have what you had.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Would not be good.
He's a little stronger if he does get it. But I think what pressurizing Mahomes only works if it comes on a 4-man rush.
Yeah.
If you start adding extra people, it's like Brady in his prime. He'll eat you alive.
Yeah.
So you can blitz Hurts, and he regresses. You can't do that with Mahomes.
Yeah.
It's a different level player.
All right, let's move on to it.
Yeah. I don't know about Jalen Carter's sickness. I don't know where that stands. I mean, you know, it'd have to be a pretty bad sickness, which would obviously be a pretty big loss for the Philadelphia Eagles. I haven't seen any updates on that. I know he missed like a practice with sickness, but he was still like around there. So, you know, I don't know how bad it could have been if he was still like essentially like, you know, walking around and with everyone. And again, I don't know if it's progressed since then. I try to like keep away from all that type of stuff until like it actually like matters, until game time. Because I hate like speculating whether or not someone's going to be healthy or they're going to be injured, et cetera, et cetera. But, yeah, I mean, obviously they want to make Jalen Hurts uncomfortable. You want to do that for every quarterback. So yeah, you know, that's what the Chiefs are going to want to do. Make Jalen Hurts uncomfortable. It's actually interesting because Colin seems very confident that the Eagles will lose this game, and J-Mac appears very confident that the Eagles are going to win this game. I think what it'll ultimately come down to, I don't mean like the game itself, because I've kind of already reduced it so many different times, but so I shouldn't say what it will all come down to, but I guess like Jalen Hurts' success ultimately will come down to kind of 2 things from my viewpoint. Outside of obviously establishing the run with Saquon Barkley. We know that, right? We know that, right? Getting the run game going, et cetera, et cetera. That's obvious. Goes without saying. But what it comes down to is, does Kellen Moore give Jalen Hurts the answers for that pressure? for those blitzes? You know, does he give him the answer? Does he give him the guys to get the ball to? And do those guys make the play? Do they make the play? Do they come down with the catch? And when they do have the ball, if it is one of those, quick 7-yard, slants, whatever it may be, like, do they not only now come down with that ball, but then Dallas Goedert stiff arm A.J. Brown, kind of doing a little bit of a dance, and then getting the extra 10, 15, and then maybe even more, even more than that, right? Like, that's, to me, what it'll come down to. And what are some of the easy options that Kellen Moore gives Jalen Hurts to just spit the ball out, just spit it out. And not to mention, how can you use the run game to help kind of mitigate some of that? Whether it be, Jalen Hurts' legs or Saquon Barkley's. I just did a clip before where Mark Sanchez talked about how he thinks that the Eagles should essentially set a record for most, carries. That they should just run the ball, that is the name of the game. And it's nothing against Jalen Hurts' ability to throw the ball, nothing to do with that, but it's just like, that is the key to winning this game. And that it's going to be like, we're going to run the ball, and when AJ Brown has one-on-one, hit AJ, like, that's going to be the name of the game. So I am so fascinated to see what the game plan ultimately ends up being for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the other big question mark is can Fangio and this defense slow down the Kansas City Chiefs? In a way, it feels like that the way the Philadelphia Eagles win this game is by one of those just jarring whiplash performances like we saw the Seattle Seahawks versus the Denver Broncos, where it was just like, wow. And the Seahawks defense just was an avalanche for the Broncos, and it was too much. And again, I highlighted that in a previous video where, like, the Broncos, they were setting records. They had the most points scored ever in a 16-game schedule. Peyton Manning was MVP, Offensive Player of the Year. They had multiple games that they were winning, that they were putting up 40 points, 50 points. It was a record-breaking season. And then in the Super Bowl, none of that existed. Like, that's what you're hoping, obviously, if you're an Eagles fan, that Vic Fangio and that defense can do. Just be an avalanche. Now, I don't think it will be that, because it wasn't necessarily like that against the Packers, Rams, and the Commanders. It was still great, but it wasn't like this, like, oh my God, they just can't do anything, right? Like, there were still plays to be made. And same thing, and then with the Buccaneers versus Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, where it was just kind of an avalanche, and there was just nowhere to go for Patrick Mahomes. So it's like, that's what you're looking to do for the Eagles defense. And to me, like, that is so much bigger of the force in terms of what leads them to win, compared to then just putting this all on Jalen's shoulders. Because if the defense can really step up and really make that Kansas City Chiefs offense uncomfortable from the jump, and really set that tone, and then have everyone else on the Eagles settled, and then you can just sit into the run, and it's like, fine, you can blitz us all you want. We can just keep moving the chains. You can't. We put up points, you can't. And at this point, like, we can kick field goals. We can. We could just keep adding up those points. And I think that goes, an incredibly long way. Everyone keeps kind of talking about, like, that the Chiefs want to put this all on Jalen Hurts' shoulders. And I think that is the right game plan, not because Jalen Hurts can't handle it or because he's such a weakness, but it's like, you'd essentially want to do that with every quarterback you face, no matter who you're facing, no matter what team you're facing. You're like, we want you to beat us, you, the quarterback. We're going to put the ball in your hands, and, we're going to bet that you can't do it. Because it's a lot easier when you can just get behind, a beast of a running back, a beast of a wide receiver, a beast of a tight end, where it's just like, yeah, get the ball to the playmakers and let them make it happen. But if you constantly put the put the game in the hands of the quarterback, like that's when things can begin to unravel. You know, that's when you take a huge sack. That's when you try to do too much, force the ball down the field, you get an interception, you scramble, and now you get it stripped. Like, so like that's for the most part always the game plan defensively in terms of what you're trying to attack after. You know, outside of like the Tom Brady's and the Mahomeses of the world, but you know, everyone else, like, that's going to be the game plan. But so I just think in this instance especially that the defense is what really dictates in a lot of ways what the Kansas City Chiefs defense will be able to do against Jalen Hurts in the offense and what the Eagles want to do offensively as well. So to me, this all really stops and starts more than anything with the Philadelphia Eagles defense. So Jalen Carter, rest up. As soon as I click stop recording on this, I'm immediately going to go look up Jalen Carter and see. But, you know, we will see. We will see. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts? Kind of what they have to do offensively, and you know, are you team J-Mac or are you team Colin in terms of, you know, will Jalen Hurts be able to handle this moment? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.